Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. I am Troy Otradovic, as always, joined with Evan Witallison. Today, Evan, we have a special guest, and it is already baseball time. Pitchers, catchers, report tomorrow. We're starting to talk baseball, and that means it is Milwaukee Brewer time. So we have a very special guest today. We have Andrew Vrchota with us. Andrew is the creator and writer for the Wisconsin Sports Blog. We are happy to have him on the show. So, Andrew, thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about Brewer baseball. I know Evan has a number of things that he wanted to discuss with you. There's some things I want to touch base with on the Brewers, but we really want to get your preview of the Brewers, kind of where they're going to end up, where do we think that there's going to be some highlights this year, and what players might actually break out. And so, real excited to have you on the show, Andrew. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Really excited about this season. About a month ago, it looked like it was just going to be like another quiet off season and another dismal season, but a lot of things to be excited about for the Brewers this year.
Yeah, before we get into some of the excitement to look forward to, and I guess this is something to be excited about too, is Ryan Braun returning from his suspension from last season. Now, what kind of impact do you feel he's going to have on the team, and how is he going to be welcomed by his teammates and the fans?
Well, I think there's going to be some regression with the fans. That's to be expected. But yeah, I honestly think that we won't see a decline in production. If you look back, on seasons before, he did take the illegal substances. He was still putting up great numbers, a great batting average, a great on-base percentage, great slugging. So I honestly don't think we'll see a change in production. He's going to have it's going to be more of like a mental thing for him. Just zoning out the fans that boo and chant and that taunt him, and just go out there and play baseball.
Now, how soon before you think he gets used to playing in right field? Because now he's moving to right field after the Naori Aoki trade. How soon before you think he gets comfortable out there?
I think he'll play a lot out there in spring, and I'm sure he's been doing some off-season workouts and learning the position. I mean, he was a number 5 overall draft pick, the third baseman, and he transitioned over to a left fielder, and that transition went well. So I honestly don't think it's going to be too much of an issue with him moving over to right field. I mean, yeah, they're two different positions, different angles, with depending on who's batting, but overall, I think he's going to transition pretty well to right field.
Well, you talked about the excitement, Andrew. So let's kind of just go through the things that have happened this offseason. I was like you. I was scratching my head. I'm like, the Brewers are doing nothing. And then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, right before spring training, we get a lot of things happening. So fill the listeners into all the personnel moves that were made this offseason, because I'm excited about the moves that we made. We even threw a trade in there. There's some good things that happen with this Brewer team, and it looks like they're putting some pieces together that'll make them competitive this year. And, of course, that's going to rest on us being very healthy. But we made a lot of good moves in this offseason to warrant excitement going into the season, because up to a month ago, to be honest with you, if you were going to ask me to preview the Brewers, I would have been like, maybe 75, 76 wins. But now we made some good moves. I don't know if I'd consider them great, but good moves for the organization to maybe put us at that 500 or a bit over 500 level, which can let us compete for a wild card come September. And that's all we can ask for as Brewer fans at this point, I believe.
Yeah. To start off the year, we traded Nori Aoki to the Royals. We acquired a left-handed pitcher, Will Smith. He's 24 years old. He's a lefty. And last year, in 2013, he actually had the second-best slider in all of baseball, judging by strikeout rate. Again, he's young. He's probably going to make the bullpen. He does have starter experience, but just the way how the rotation is looking right now, I think for the time being, he is better suited in the bullpen. With maybe some spot starts here and there. Then we kind of transitioned over to figuring out who was going to be our first baseman. Now, we were going after Corey Hart. We kind of lowballed him on a deal, which he eventually took his talents to Seattle. But we signed a couple free agent first basemen to minor league deals, and they're kind of looking to see what who's going to do what in spring training. We signed Mark Reynolds, who is actually a first base, third baseman. He's power hitter, strikes out a lot. He came up through the Diamondbacks organization, I believe, and he's known for his power, but he's also known for striking out a lot. And then we added a veteran in Lyle Overbay. I'm sure all the 10-year Brewer fans remember that name. We signed him to a minor league deal just as some competition for Juan Francisco and Reynolds. But honestly, from the way I see it, I don't see a way that Overbay makes the team unless either Juan Francisco or Mark Reynolds gets hurt at some point in spring training. And then probably the biggest move of the offseason happened a few weeks ago. The Brewers inked free agent pitcher Matt Garza to a 4-year, $50 million deal. And that was actually pretty exciting, just because of the fact, compared to other pitchers getting their deals out there, it was a very competitive, cost-friendly deal for a small market team like the Brewers. Garza probably is going to be our number 2 starter behind Gallardo. I'm really excited to see him pitch because, granted, he's got some injury issues that we'll have to watch, but we're getting Garza in his age 30, 31, 32, and 33 years, and, in baseball terms, those are considered prime years. So I'm definitely excited about the rotation. And then to top it all off, we brought back a familiar face for the third time in Francisco Rodriguez. So he'll be joining the bullpen again to kind of give the bullpen a seasoned veteran, with closer experience, in case anything happens to Henderson. But overall, I think, again, like I said before we got into all this, but it was a very, very boring, nothing noteworthy offseason, and it turned into some pretty exciting stuff, and I would actually rate it a pretty successful one, if you ask me.
Looking at the bullpen really quick, and with K-Rod coming back, I think he should change his name to the Yo-Yo instead of K-Rod. But looking at the bullpen, I know it's K-Rod and Henderson, but there's not really much there. So, what is your thought on the bullpen?
Well, there's a lot of options. I mean, the Brewers can go a few different ways. I think right now, though, you have at least 4 to 5 guaranteed names that you're going to see in the bullpen this year. Obviously, Jim Henderson's going to be the closer. You're going to have Francisco Rodriguez and Brandon Kinsler be your setup, late inning guys, your specialists looking to strike out a lot. Middle relievers, you're probably looking at Tom Gorzolani again and Will Smith. And that leaves a couple spots open. So to give you kind of just like a top 5 who will probably be competing for those last 2 spots, you have Rob Wooten, who we saw a little bit of action of last year. We have the flamethrower Alfredo Figueroa, who's best known for his Figueroa chant. And he actually did fill in a few spot starts as well. But then going down to AAA, with the addition of Matt Garza, you could see Tyler Thornburg enter the bullpen in kind of like a late innings role, but also like a spot starter, a long innings guy in case one of our starters has to take an early exit. And then you have Jimmy Nelson, who could start the year out in the bullpen if he has a good spring. And then you also have Johnny Hellwig, too, who may make his way up to the bullpen. But honestly, I think Hellwig needs a little bit more time in AAA. We saw how he struggled last year when he got his call up. So I think he needs a little bit more time to percolate down in the minors. But Jimmy Nelson, Figueroa, and Thornburg are definitely some options for the last two spots.
Hey, Andrew, the one name that you didn't bring up, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Back in December, the Brewers opted in Rule 5, and they took from Pittsburgh Wei-Chung Wang. And by Rule 5, if they don't keep him on the roster for the whole year, he has to go back to Pittsburgh. Now, this is a kid that has very low-level minor league experience. What is your thought on Wang? I mean, what was the Brewers thinking, taking a guy that I from what I understand just played single A ball, and now they took him in Rule 5, and so is this just going to be, hey, we're going to give him back to Pittsburgh? We went out and made this pick, or does he have a legitimate chance to stay on the roster all year?
What I think they were doing was it was more of a value pick. Wang had Tommy John surgery a few years ago, and yeah, you're right. He actually never has made it past rookie ball. He hasn't even played in single A. He's 21 years old. He's a left-handed pitcher. He was a top prospect, and he has a flamethrower. I mean, he can throw up to 95 even after his Tommy John surgery. They're probably going to give him a look in spring, but because of the fact that he hasn't pitched past rookie ball, again, I think all the pick was a value pick, and they may try to look to trade him before the season starts to maybe get a prospect back or whatnot. But I don't see him making the roster, and if anything, yeah, he will be going back to Pittsburgh unless the Brewers and the Pirates can work out some deal where we would just send money back to the Pirates and we would keep Wang on our roster.
Sticking to minor league for a second now, Hunter Morris, he dominated Double-A ball, and he had a very horrendous year compared to his Double-A bar in Triple-A last year. Is he one that's ready to make that jump to challenge for that starting first base job, or is it going to be the human strikeout machines, Juan Francisco and Mark Reynolds, platooning for that spot? If that's the case, it's going to be very windy in Miller Park this year.
Yeah, and to put it simply, I think if the Brewers actually thought Hunter Morris was ready for this season, I don't think there would have been this frantic, who are we going to have at first base, and sign Overbay and Reynolds. Hunter Morris it's frustrating because he got all this hype when he was coming up to Double-A, when he had that Double-A year, and he was the minor league player of the year, and now he had Triple-A, and he still hits long balls, and but his defense isn't there at first base, and he tends to strike out a lot as well. I think they're going to give him another year in the minors just to see what they can fix, what they can't, and kind of count their losses, I guess, or count their gains if you can somehow improve. But it's very showing that we would go out and sign two free agent first basemen with a guy with the star, what one had star potential in Hunter Morris.
And that brings us to another battle. I know we talk about first base, but where do you see the second base battle going, Andrew? You got Scooter Gennett and Ricky Weeks, who's always hurt. I mean, I think Ricky Weeks has a ton of potential when he's healthy and can put together a whole season. I mean, you can see the potential, but he's been so injured that he's not reliable. We can't count on him. Is he going to be the starting second baseman, or are we going to see the youngster in there opening day?
Well, like first base, it is going to be a platoon situation again this year. You know, we did see some promising things out of Scooter last year, but I don't know if that's going to carry over into this season. You know, it all remains to be seen. You know, from the talks and what it sounds like from Renicky, he is in favor of having Scooter be the opening day starter. But you know, that all remains to be seen. You know, Ricky Weeks can come out and have a good spring. You know, regardless of his injuries and whatnot, you know, he's still, out of all the National League Central second basemen, he's number 2 on the list as far as getting on base. He's got the second highest on base percentage. So that being said, you know, yeah, we may see him get injured every once in a while, but when he does play, even though, you know, he does strike out and, you know, he frustrates the fans, he does get on base. He does walk a lot. He does, I believe, he pitches well for the most part. I think it's mental, like how I was saying earlier with Braun. It's a mental thing, you know. He just doesn't have it all there sometimes, you know. But when he does have it all together and he's playing good baseball, you know, he can play a great second base.
Yeah, he definitely can.
Fact, you know, we're paying him, I think, almost $13 million this year. So, yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of playing the better player, but you hate to waste $13 million on the bench just because it's not a popular decision among the fans on who they actually want to see play second base. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, you just answered my question. I was going to lead into this and say, if Scooter shows in spring that he is, you know, capable of being the starting second baseman, how do you keep Weeks on the bench with the salary? I mean, that's just not wise. Could you see the Brewers deal?
Well,
could you see him dealing him if that happens, or is it just going to be, hey, it's going to be Weeks' job, and then Scooter's just going to platoon in there and give Weeks a break? Well, I mean, what's your thought on that overall situation? If Scooter outplays him this spring, what are the Brewers going to do?
They'll keep him on the bench for the time being. I mean, you know, they have infield options down in the minors. You know, they have Jeff Bianchi who's probably going to make the bench to be the backup shortstop. But again, too, it's like if Weeks isn't producing, if he loses the second base position to Scooter, who's going to actually want to acquire him for the $13 million as a second baseman that's sitting on the bench? You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to want to take that salary down, you know, unless you're a team like the Yankees or you're a big spender who loses a second baseman who's in the running for a playoff spot. I really don't think it's an option where a team would be willing to take on that kind of salary unless it's later on in the season.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with Weeks. And with Bob, I see happening, unfortunately, with Weeks is he's going to come out and have a great spring and then struggle once again once the season starts. Now, another guy I'm concerned with struggling is a guy they're putting a lot of faith into. They traded probably their first legit leadoff hitter they've had in quite a while to play Chris Davis, to basically hand him the left fielder's job. They moved Braun to right field, and now they're telling Chris Davis, this is your job. Now, are you at all concerned? Because he played well last year in a limited number of at-bats. But are you concerned at all now seeing what he does full time?
Not really. I mean, what I'm actually more concerned about is not Chris Davis. It's actually who's going to take the role of being the leadoff hitter, you know, because Aoki really had that down pat. You know, he got on base a lot, either by walking, getting hit by pitches, bunting. You know, he was such a versatile player that, you know, we didn't really have to worry about, you know, who is batting leadoff. You know, you look at Segura as probably the favorite option to be that guy, just because of his speed and the fact that, you know, Segura can put the bat on the ball, again, like how Aoki did, you know, with bunting or just infield singles. You know, the Brewers led the entire league in infield hits last year. So, we have the speed and we have the capability of doing it, but it's going to be interesting to see who they actually put that job to. Whether it's going to be Segura, whether they try Gomez out up there, in that, weeks depending on who's starting there. But that's actually my bigger question. I think Chris Davis proved last year, with Braun going out, that he is more than capable of playing not only the position of left field, but also using the services of his bat. A little stat here on Chris Davis. Following the All-Star break, Chris Davis led the MLB in slugging percentage at a .639, and he hit a home run in every 10.8 at-bat. So he definitely showed flashes of potential, and, it's worth a shot giving him the spot. I definitely think he earned the opportunity last year, stepping up when we needed a left fielder in the unfortunate times of losing Ryan Braun.
Well, I'll tell you, he had that little surge in the right after the All-Star break where he was just crushing the ball. And I'm out in Pittsburgh, Andrew, so I'm listening to sports talk radio out here. And actually, when he was doing that, I was going back and forth from Indianapolis, and it was amazing because people are wondering who this Chris Davis guy was because he was just lighting it up for a couple of weeks there. And so I agree with you. I think he proved that he has, at least earned the right to have that opportunity. So we'll see what he can do being a full-time starter for a whole year. But I think he got acclimated to that last year when Braun went out. He was in there. He was an everyday player, and I think he'll do just fine. I'm going to switch over back into the infield and talk about Ramirez at third base. Again, he was injured last year too, so we lost another big bat in the lineup. But when we look at Ramirez, if he's not producing, how do you think the Brewers are going to go there? I'm hoping he comes back. I know this is the last year of his contract. He's coming back supposedly healthy for spring training. But what is our other option behind Ramirez at third base if things aren't going well with Ramirez there?
Well, the beautiful thing about the depth that we have is that actually our two first basemen that are going to be platooning, they're also both experienced at third base. Both Juan Francisco and Mark Reynolds both also have major league experience at the third base position. Plus, you have Jeff Bianchi, who can play pretty much every position in the infield but first base. So there's definitely some depth behind Ramirez. But yeah, you're right. I'm interested to see him at age 35. With being injured a lot last year with his hip. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of production we can get out of Ramirez, assuming that he's going to be our cleanup hitter this year again. So, again, it all remains to be seen. I hope he has a nice, easy spring. He doesn't overdo it, and he can definitely turn on the switch before April hits. Because he always tends to have a slow start to the season as well.
Yeah, I just hope somebody teaches the poor guy how to slide, because that's how the injuries happened, is his technique sliding. So I hope somebody this spring teaches them that right technique, because the Brewers cannot afford to lose their 3, 4, 5 hitters like they did last year with the Braun, Ramirez, and Hart. Now let's get to the pitching staff really quick. We talked about Garza, having him come in, probably being the number 2. Gallardo probably being the opening day starter. And now you've got Kyle Loesch. So those are obviously 3 guys for sure. Willie Peralta pitched pretty well towards the end of the year. Now with those 4, you're penciled in to be your 1 through 4 starters, who gets the number 5 nod? Is it Marco Estrada? Is it Tyler Thornburg? Is it Will Smith? Who gets that number 5 job?
Well, Willie Peralta really did a good job last year for the most part. There were games where he struggled a lot, but he definitely showed a lot of improvement. So that is something to look forward to this spring. But as far as the 5th spot's concerned, I'm convinced it's going to be Marco Estrada. Going into even the early parts of the off season last year. Renicky mentioned multiple times that Marco Estrada was definitely set on being part of the 2014 rotation. He doesn't have crazy stuff. He has a fastball. He's your basic innings eater pitcher. He doesn't, he generates a lot of strikeouts. He's very durable, and I think that's something that the Brewers like in him, and I think that's why we always see him as a pitcher in our rotation. But depending on the spring that Tyler Thornburg has, he definitely showed a lot of good things last year too. So he would definitely be the guy on the outside looking in for the rotation, just based off of how well he did last year. But if Thornburg doesn't end up making the rotation, he's going to be down in AAA for the time being until a spot in the bullpen opens up, or they need a spot starter in the rotation. But I think your starting five, your rotation is going to be Gallardo, Garza, Loesch, Estrada, and then Peralta being the number 5.
Well, I'll tell you what, Andrew, I'm actually, when it comes to the pitching staff, I'm actually excited this year. It looks like we actually have some quality depth and some decisions to make when it comes to the overall pitching staff, something that I haven't seen in the past couple of years. We threw together a makeshift bullpen last year, and we came out, and actually the numbers weren't that bad in the bullpen. It was just our starters couldn't get past the 4th or 5th inning half the time. And so this year I look at it, and I'm real excited about the depth that we have as an overall staff, starters, relievers, because when we look at that final roster, there are going to be some good competitions going on in spring training, something that Milwaukee hasn't had in quite a while on the pitching staff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This rotation is actually the best rotation we've had since the days where we had Markham and Greinke in there.
So when you're moving...
Yeah, I'm excited with this pitching rotation as well. And now I'm just looking at the time here, and we're getting close to the wire here. I guess looking at the team that we've put together, the Brewers have put together going into the season, is this a team that can contend with the Cardinals for the division, or are they going to be fighting with the Reds and the Pirates for one of the 2 wild cards? Which I think one of the wild cards is definitely coming out of this division. Are they fighting with the Pirates and the Reds, or are they fighting with the Cardinals?
Yeah, I'm actually going to just say they're going to be fighting with the Reds. I think the Pirates this year are going to have a substantial decline in production. They lost a lot of pitching as far as their rotation is concerned that I don't think they're going to be ready for. But I do believe that we'll be up there with the Reds. The year that we won the division, we weren't actually projected to have over 90 wins. So, anything can happen. It's all going to depend on the durability of our
90 seconds.
We formulate a lineup to have the same offensive production as we did last year, with the stolen bases and the infield hits and the getting on base and just getting the run scored. If we can build on a lead, 9 times out of 10 our bullpen can hold it, and we can definitely secure the victory. But the biggest thing is, again, as always, it's going to be to be healthy and just to have our starters,
60 seconds.
Our bullpen healthy, and no one can take any performance enhancers this year to put our season in jeopardy. And I think we'll be all right. I definitely think we can be a wild card team, but as far as contending for the division, I don't think we can keep up with the Cardinals.
Yeah, the last comment I'm going to make is the pro teams in this state, they're due for a healthy season. The Brewers, the Packers, and the Bucks have just been cursed with injuries, especially this season for the Packers and the Bucks. They are due for a healthy season. So they just have to be due. And I'm going to go on a limb right now, and I say the Brewers, they win the division this year. Everyone stays healthy, things fall into place, and the Cardinals have
10 seconds.
On the way for the first time and for quite a while, and I think they finished second place.
Well, I hope you're right, man.
Yeah, you know what, Evan? I'm right there. I'm right there with you, bud. I certainly hope that they can win the division. I'm more on the side of Andrew. I think we're going to be battling for the wild card. Andrew, you know, I'm out in Pittsburgh, so I got to deal with the Pittsburgh fans. So if any of my local Pittsburgh fans are listening, they're probably going to be mad at you for saying that the Pirates aren't going to contend this year. But I agree with you. They took some hits that I don't think they realize. But they had been so decimated for how many years of losing that they won last year. So now that they think they can win every year. But I'm with Andrew. I think we're going to contend for that wild card. But Andrew, once again, thank you for coming on the show. Much appreciated. You're welcome to come on the show anytime, bud.
Thank you for having me on again. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'd be up for coming on whenever you guys want me to. So
well, it's a long Brewer season, so we'll definitely, you know, hook up on Twitter and say, hey, come join the show, because we're definitely going to have a lot of Brewer talk going on. But just so the listeners know, Andrew Vrchota, hope I said that right. He is the creator of Wisconsin Sports Blog. You guys should check out his website. And if you want to follow him on Twitter, it's at Wisconsin WI Sports Blog. So it's simply at WI Sports Blog. Definitely check it out, folks. Andrew's a wealth of knowledge. Again, we appreciate you coming on the show. For our listeners, have a great night. Make sure you join us tomorrow for the Red Light Rant. Evan and I have a great topic set up. But with that said, everyone, we'll see you at the next Red Light. Enjoy your evening. We'll get back at you tomorrow.